Have you ever walked into a room and, within seconds, felt the exact temperature of the social tension? You see the micro-expression of a friend that betrays their perfect smile. You hear the slight tremor in a colleague's voice that reveals their hidden insecurity. While everyone else is busy talking, you are busy collecting data. Most people call this being observant, but for you it feels like a heavy, unasked-for responsibility. This is the world of the silent observer. It's a rare psychological state where your brain operates as a high-fidelity superprocessor, absorbing every social cue, environmental detail, and unspoken motive in the room. But there is a cost to seeing what others miss. Today, we're opening the window into the observer's burden to reveal the neuroscience of hyperperception, the isolation of X-ray empathy, and why your silence is actually your brain's way of surviving the noise. Today, we look through the glass at the psychology of the silent observer. Welcome to the Internal Vantage. Being a silent observer isn't just a personality trait, it's a biological reality. Neuroscience tells us that highly intelligent minds often possess heightened sensory processing. Your brain doesn't have the standard filters that most people use to block out useless information. Instead, you absorb everything, the ticking clock, the distant siren, and the subtle shift in a stranger's body language. This leads to a level of neural sophistication that can feel like a superpower, but it often manifests as a burden of overthinking and emotional exhaustion. In this deep dive, we are exploring the sensory trap, the metacognitive loop, and the X-ray vision of the shadow. We'll see how this perception is often forged in a latchkey childhood where you were forced to read moods to stay safe. By the end of this video, you'll understand why your high perception makes you feel like an outsider and how to turn that burden into your greatest vantage point. Let's look through the window. The first reason high perception feels like a burden is biological. Most people have a gating mechanism in their brain that filters out background noise, but for the silent observer, this gate is wide open. This is known as heightened sensory processing. Your brain is literally taking in more bits of data per second than the people around you. You don't just see a person, you see the lint on their sleeve, the way they avoid eye contact, and the specific cadence of their breathing. While this allows you to detect patterns faster, it also leads to overstimulation. This is why many silent observers are self-sufficient introverts who crave solitude. It's not that you don't like people, it's that being around them is loud even when they are silent. Your brain is working overtime to process a mountain of social data that most people don't even know exists. For you, silence isn't empty. It's a necessary factory reset for your nervous system. The second burden is the metacognitive loop. High IQ individuals don't just think, they practice metacognition, the ability to think about their own thinking. When you are a silent observer, you aren't just observing the world, you are observing yourself, observing the world. You find yourself replaying conversations before they even happen, simulating 50 different outcomes to ensure you don't miss a beat. You question your own motives as much as you question others. This leads to a state of ambitious paralysis. Because you see so many variables and so many ways a situation could go wrong, you often find it easier to stay silent than to participate. You are smart but unsuccessful in social situations not because you lack social skills, but because you are overanalyzing the social physics of the room while everyone else is just acting on instinct. You are a master simulator trapped in a world of people who are winging it. The third sign is X-ray empathy. Because your brain is so attuned to patterns, you often see the shadow in other people, the parts of themselves they try to hide. You see the insecurity behind the boast, the sadness behind the joke, and the manipulation behind the kind gesture. This is a form of neural sophistication where you feel emotions deeply, even if they aren't your own. This perception becomes a burden because you cannot unsee the truth. It makes it difficult to engage in the social masking that everyone else uses to get through the day. When you see someone lying to themselves, you feel the friction of that lie in your own nervous system. This often leads to internalized withdrawal. You go quiet not because you are angry, but because you are protecting your inner fortresses from the emotional static of people who are living out their unhealed shadows. Why did you become a silent observer in the first place? Often, this perception is a survival mechanism forged in childhood. Many observers were the child who grew up too fast. If you grew up in an unhappy family, or with critical parents, you learned to be hyper-vigilant to stay safe. You had to read the room the second you walked through the door to know if it was safe to speak. This created a permanent fixer instinct. You feel a heavy burden to solve the problems you see in others, even if they haven't asked for help. You have a repair kit for everyone else's internal brokenness, but you struggle to put down the kit and just be. Your high perception feels like a burden because you feel responsible for the world you observe. You aren't just a witness. You've been trained to be the silent architect of everyone else's emotional stability. So, how do you handle the weight of seeing too much? You must embrace the vantage point of insignificance. We often overthink our perception because we feel like our social shadow matters eternally. But as the 3-generation rule suggests, within 100 years, the memory of these social tensions will be dust. When you realize that your high perception doesn't have to lead to high stakes, you find freedom. You can move from being an anxious observer to a stoic witness. You stop trying to fix the shadows and start practicing spiritual discernment, choosing which data points are worth your energy and which are just noise. Like the quiet winner, you realize that you don't have to announce everything you see. Your power isn't in what you tell the world. It's in the clarity of your own inner fortresses. You stop being a victim of your perception and start being the master of your vantage point. To truly turn this burden into a gift, you must establish a factory of good thoughts. Because your brain absorbs so much dark data, you must be disciplined in your metacognition. If you look at people only as a collection of flaws and shadows, you will descend into cynicism. But if you use your high perception to look for the angelic or the soul in others, your life becomes a festival. This is the ultimate shadow work. Using your ability to see the deep truths of life to find the meaning that others miss. You aren't too sensitive or too quiet. You are a soul with a high-resolution window into the human experience. Your burden is only heavy if you try to carry everyone else's world. If you just watch, observe, and learn, you become the silent sage in a world of noise. Being a silent observer is a rare form of intelligence, but it requires the discipline of a Stoic to master. If you've spent your life feeling like you see too much, hit that like button. It's a signal that we're building a community of people who look through the glass differently. I want to hear from you. When did you first realize you were a silent observer? Was it in the classroom, the office, or your own living room? Let's talk about the burden and the power in the comments. And if you're ready to discover the 7 signs you have traumatic intelligence, make sure you're subscribed. Your vantage point is unique. Protect it. We'll see you next time, here at the Internal Vantage. Stay sharp, stay observant, and keep looking through the window. Your perspective is the only thing that belongs to you. We'll see you next time.